Hello Guardian! It is time we check the total damage output and DPS of every machine gun, exotic and legendary. I will be using my Warlock with Rain of Fire and my Titan with Actium War Rig as their exotic armor so that I don't have to reload my weapons. As everyone should in all encounters, I will rally with triple reserves and during damage I will be using triple loaders and triple surges mods. On Warlock, I will also be using Well of Radiance because why not? And because we want the damage numbers to be comparable to one another, I will provide extra theoretical stats, including damage and DPS on Titan with Well of Radiance. With that out of the way, let's dive into the action. And let's start with Thunderlord, an old classic that saw an increase in its usage rate on the Nezarec encounter in some LFGs. Its incredible damage output comes from the synergy between its weapon trait Lightning Rounds paired with its catalyst that adds the effect of the perk Lightning Stroke. This weapon gets a good bonus in damage from the precision shots and it should go hand in hand with a divinity in fire team scenarios. While Warlock needs to reload only once, it still falls behind in total shots fired due to the fact that the weapon gets its rate of fire increased the longer you hold down the trigger. Take a look at the solo practical and theoretical total damage and DPS of Thunderlord. Feel free to pause the video if you need to. Xenophage. Xeno has been nerfed and buffed in recent years and is always considered a decent damage weapon. I remember it being my go-to weapon in the Warmind Cell era. I consider it to be one of the highest burst damage weapons. It has an incredible range and requires no precision. The only downside this weapon has is its low ammo reserve capacity, considering you can fire 2.5 mags. In most boss damage phases, it is not a very good option since you need to preemptively stockpile ammo if you want to continue damaging or use a secondary special weapon. Take a look at its damage stats and like the previous one, feel free to pause the video for a moment if you need to. Heir Apparent, one of the greatest weapon designs in my opinion. It had its moments when it was used in PvP scenarios due to the synergy of its weapon trait, Armor of the Colossus, with the catalyst perk Legion's Bulwark. In regards to damage output, it's lacking compared to other options. I would like for it to get a small buff, at least in burst damage, and make it a better option for someone to use in a solo damage phase. Anyways, here are its damage stats. It's a shame that even if you hit all precision shots with Actium in a well, it barely tops a non-optimal damage from a Warlock with Thunderlord. Grand Overture, a weapon that is somewhat flying under the radar. I have seen some reports here and there of it being a good damage option, but to be honest, I wasn't expecting that. Of course, I preloaded 20 missiles before damage started, as you should if you are ever going to use this weapon. I guess not every damage phase works the same. Some have bosses that teleport around, others bosses with overshields, and others burst damage phases on plates. But in all seriousness, why aren't we using this weapon? One good point is that as with all weapons that need preloading or pre-charge, if you die, you lose all your stacks. But in my opinion, it has a great ammo economy, you can use it before damage to preload rockets, and it has an incredible ease of use. Here are its damage stats. Enjoy. Feel free to write in the comments below what your opinion on this weapon is. Deterministic Chaos. The last of the exotic machine guns and a weapon that honestly couldn't be worse of a gun to exist. I guess technically it could, but damn it's bad. Where do I begin? From its rate of fire, its damage per shot, its inability to activate its exotic perk inside the Well of Radiance? You are better off using a primary or special as a damage weapon than this piece of trash. Check out these huge damage stats and don't mind skipping this one. Let's move to the legendary weapons, and here there aren't many options available, due to the fact that I believe Bungie wants this type of weapons to be more of an ad-clear option rather than being used for damage. Still, there is, and you probably already know it, a very good option. I'm going to split them into categories based on perks rather than weapon frames. Healing Tally. This perk boosts the damage of every bullet by 30% and the buff persists until the weapon is stowed or reloaded. Only a Titan with Actium War Rig can skip reloading and leg day. For our adaptive frame option, I'm gonna use Commemoration, and for high impact frame, Fixed Odds. Damage stats coming up. For legendary weapons with a perk that is not, if I may say, designed for damage, they perform far better than Deterministic Chaos. Last but not least, Target Lock. One of the best perks for total damage output the longer you are able to hold down the trigger. It also gets an additional damage increase from its enhanced variant on crafted weapons. It especially shines on Retrofit Escapade with 4 times the charm paired with Actium War Rig. While there are other machine guns that can roll with this perk, currently they can't be crafted, and only one of them, the Terminus Horizon from Spire of the Watcher dungeon, has a first column perk that helps increase the time you hold down the trigger with triple tap. I don't know if it's intended or not, but there seems to be a bug with Well of Radiance where my Warlock at Target Lock X5 only got a 30% damage increase per bullet instead of the 45% that was advertised. For that reason, the theoretical damage calculation for Warlock will be based on Titan's damage values. Further details will be provided in the description if you are interested in reading. And with that, the damage output and DPS machine gun test is complete. Are you using any of these weapons actively? If not, are you going to consider using any of them now? I hope you learned something new and are useful. As always, feel free to comment below any observations or suggestions for future videos. Consider subscribing for more, and thank you very much for watching. Until the next one, Guardian. Bye!